Have to wing it. So Colin Angle was here last year. Describe about your working relationship and what you do versus what he does at iRobot.
Well, I'm the chairman of the company. I'm one of the co-founders with Colin Angle and Rod Brooks. And we've got a really wonderful working relationship. We're all passionate about robots and getting robots into people's hands. And I've done more on the military side of the business, and Colin's done more on the consumer side. I've done more raising capital, taking the company public. He's done more strategic partnerships.
I remember Colin saying that it was his only job ever.
Yeah.
Are you in the same boat as your only job ever
my
at
only
iRobot?
job ever, yes.
That's pretty good. That's great. So let's talk about what a robot is. Now, I was talking with someone last night, and they said that you said a Segway is a robot. Is a Segway a robot?
I've got a very expansive notion of what a robot is, so I'm good with that. Especially since, I think the New England, Boston area, and they're just up in New Hampshire, is a real epicenter of robotics. We've got a real cluster of robot activity there, and I include Segway and the universities and other companies in the area. But a robot, it's really a different type of device. It's one that not only senses and processes information, but it can actually act on it. And so much potential. It's a combination of multiple engineering disciplines. The computer science, certainly, electronics, mechanical systems, dynamic sensing, design for production. You really have to use everything to build a robot.
So I have another question about something that's a robot that's actually here. I think we have a picture of this. Is the Tesla a robot? There's a picture of you at the Tesla. I hear you're going to buy one, right? You really want one.
It may not be today, but it certainly will be in the future.
So are you going to buy one and turn it into you put a little Roomba in there and turn it into maybe a vacuum cleaning Tesla?
A few of our sensors. We actually have a robot that you can get in and drive. It's running around right here in San Diego at SPAWAR, and it's doing perimeter security on one of the weapons depots over there. And there's right now, the state of the art isn't to go out on U.S. highways, where there's traffic. But at the DARPA Grand Challenge this year, the robots play in traffic, so that should be a fabulous event.
Are you guys involved in that at all?
We are on the Raytheon team as a company. We're really concentrating on putting robot products into the warfighter's hands, into consumers' hands. And what we're doing is we're just bringing some of the technology we've already developed to that team.
So we should all be rooting for the Raytheon team in the DARPA Challenge. Last year they went through Paul of the Desert. This year they're actually going through city streets.
They're playing in traffic.
They're playing in traffic. So talk to me a little bit about general purpose versus fixed function robots. And most of the ones that we see now are these they do one thing really well. My vision of robots growing up was, the robot that did everything, it's like, warning, Will Robinson.
It's a vision that a lot of people have had, and a lot of people have failed with it. So, I think it'll come at some point in time. But my field's one where people are always saying, oh, this is what we'll do in the future, and a lack of people actually getting anything accomplished. So, we're really proud that we put Roombas on the market. We've Scuba floor washing robots on the market. We sold over 2.5 million home robots now, and that's unprecedented in our field.
Oh. So it's still all about the fixed function robots today.
Right, like when you go out and buy a tool, which I have many of, a DeWalt tool with those wonderful new types of batteries in them. You want the best functionality. You want it to be able to do that job extremely well. And when people buy a vacuum, when people buy a floor washing machine, they want it to do that job extremely well. As the field progresses, as you get more into the information, communications, entertainment aspects, then maybe we'll start to see more multi-purpose devices. But I think when people buy a Roomba, they buy it as an appliance, and they want it to get the job done.
Well, it used to be that we wanted our phones to do one thing well, and now we want them to do lots of things.
You do. I do. But I can tell you, a lot of people in the world are disturbed by how difficult all the functions are. The gentleman yesterday from one of the Japanese companies said, a huge number of pages of instructions. No one ever reads. I love my phone.
How big is the instruction manual for the Roomba?
It's not that bad, and there's a quick start. You push a button, it does the job.
cleans.
I mean, we've really concentrated on the user interface in part because when you say the word robot, people are like, oh, that needs to be programmed, or that's not for me. That's technology. That might be a little bit scary. So really, on the consumer products, one button, and they get the job done.
So let's talk about the military robots for a minute. Big area for you guys, something that you're particularly very involved in. How many are in Iraq right now?
We've delivered over 900 robots for the military, and we don't know exactly how many are in Iraq because we don't know how many have been blown up.
That was my second question. Do you know how many have been?
No, I've been sent some carcasses back, and I hear great stories from the field, and every time a robot gets blown up, they really credit that with saving one of our soldiers' lives. So they used to send our soldiers up to roadside bombs. They really did this, in a bomb suit, and now it's standard operating procedure to use a robot. So we're really proud of the work we do for the military.
And are the robots specifically doing that bomb detection, or they do other things as well in Iraq?
In Afghanistan, they were used to clear caves where Taliban were hiding weapons caches. On the push to Baghdad, they were used going into buildings first with the 101st. And really, one of the biggest problems the U.S. military has today is the roadside bombs. We just, after extensive testing last year over in the field, we just got an order for some explosive sniffing robots using some wonderful new technology out of MIT as well. It's amplifying fluorescence polymers that more sensitive to detecting explososves, and we just got an order for 101 of those. So now the robots will be going out and finding bombs, not just
trying to blow them up when they're found.
Yeah.
So what's the next big challenge for military robots? What are you going to do to help the next couple of years?
Well, our vision long-term is of robotic forces, so they can go and do securing a building on their own. They can go and do perimeter security on their own with different types of vehicles working together. So we have robots now that range from less than 30 pounds with the Soldier Unmanned Ground Vehicle, up through the PackBot, which is about 50 pounds, up through the new iRobot Warrior, which is 250-pound class. It can run as fast as a person. It can carry as much as a person. It's got an arm on it that can pick up a howitzer shell. It actually can pick me up.
Wow. And so do you see warfare developing to a battle of bots rather than a battle of humans?
We see it as, you've got guys we're sending over into the field in our name. One of the, they would like more equipment of this type that keeps them at a safe standoff distance. We've got some very, very brave soldiers, but once they have a robot in their hands, they start looking at all different types of jobs that it can take on.
So 50% of what happens on a battlefield could be done by robots? 20%? 10%?
It's hard to quantify because you have to give a time frame as well. I'm very optimistic about the field. I don't believe there's any boundaries in where we can go with the field, but it's a matter of having the discipline to take the steps along the way that are necessary to make viable consumer products. We like to say products that deliver a lot more value than they cost. So
let's change gears a little bit. So what have you learned in the military robot area that has crossed over to the consumer side that's helped you build better consumer products?
Multiple things. One great example is we were doing research on a munitions collection program. When you drop a bomb, there's lots of cluster munitions that spread out. And we had doing some search algorithms for that. Those same types of search algorithms are on every Roomba that we ship and every scuba, the spiral and the reflexive search, because it turns out it's a really great way to cover an area. So that's just one example. We had a swarm project where we built over 100 robots that can all work together. And I'll show some videos of these this afternoon in my session. But they're the first robots. When you have 128, you can't go and charge them all on their own. You can't go and turn them all on. So they were the first examples we had of self-charging. And now you can buy the Roombas with, when they're done with their job, they go back to the charging station, charge themselves. And with a scheduler, they just come out the next day, do the job, then go back to the charging station and charge themselves. So our vision on the home robot side is really of the autonomous house. It's not just about vacuuming, it's not just about floor washing, but it's having the home take care of itself, all the different chores that you don't like to do, from dusting to mowing the lawns. We did actually just put out some pool cleaning robots, robots that clean the bathtubs, maybe a centralized controller that, makes sure these teams all work together, getting the job done in a synchronized manner. And we heard a lot about this at this conference, but taking care of the people in the house. Folks have physical needs, especially as they age or if they're infirm, and robots are one of the only ways to really help with physical needs. So we do have what Jim Collins would call bags or big, hairy, audacious goals, and we're taking the steps we need to achieve them.
So it's a great vision. I've got whole fleets of robots at home that are taking care of everything, including my pets and my elderly parents. When's that going to happen, though? Are we talking 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Well, we continue to put more and more products of this category onto the market, and what we believe is it's going to take getting products onto the market, getting user feedback, iterating, getting to sales levels where you can add more features to the robots, looking at what the demands for specific features are, and really a very quick process of delivery, evaluation, and getting the next generation on the market.
Well, so give me a quick update on Roomba, your flagship product out there. How's it doing? I was at the Maker Faire this last weekend. Saw Roombas doing spirographs with crayons and all sorts of wacky little things. We heard great stories about Roomba and how last year about how people love them and they won't give them up and they give them names and turn them into Froggers and play games with them and program them. What's going on? What's new with Roomba over the past year since we last caught up?
Our mainstream demographic are people who just want to get the job done. They just want, very simply, push a button, it does the sweeping and vacuuming. But as a company, we really like to support the robot community. And so what we've done is we've opened up the interface, and some of the, the things you see that are not the normal course of Roomba cleaning, because we've opened the interface. And in fact, just at CES this year, we launched a new product called Create that invites people to come and build on our bases. There's a huge amount of enthusiasm in our field. It's the garage shop, it's the universities, and there's hundreds of thousands of high school kids participating in robot programs today. So we want to make sure, capture a lot of that energy into progressing the field. And so with the Create, which is built off the Roomba base, people can start with a realistic consumer product and, invent whatever they want on it.
Okay, so what's the wackiest thing that's happened in the past 6 months?
We open it up to our wacky engineers.
Okay, so give me a wacky example, just one.
They build a robot that goes and gets a beer from a refrigerator. The wackiest, though, and this is the one I like the best, those hamster balls that run around on the floor? They put one of that on the robot, and now the hamster can teleoperate the robot. So where the hamster goes, the robot has to go. And the hamster learned to use it. It was just wonderful.
So the hamster follows
no
the ball
hamsters
around.
were hurt in the
We're harmed
course
in
of this.
Yeah, next up will be the... Yeah,
but we've just announced a contest, actually, which we're giving a $5,000 prize, all robots.
Who's judging this contest?
We're going to have a panel of judges.
Sign me up.
Yeah. Go.
So what about Scuba? Now, Scuba was a little disappointing when you launched it because it involved separate fluids and there were some issues. But you've just kind of gotten over that, right? And is Scuba where you want it to be?
It's we've just started a direct TV campaign. We were maybe a little bit surprised it didn't catch on as rapidly as the Roomba because it's, in many respects, it's an even more useful product. You can vacuum, but there's nothing like the Scuba. The Scuba, it sweeps up debris, it puts down a cleaning fluid, it scrubs it in, and it picks it up on the back end, and it really makes it so you don't have to mop the floor. But it takes more education because people don't it's taking one of those big machines they push around in retail and miniaturize it. Oh, and you don't have to push it around.
Right.
So we're
But it takes
we're
a little
extremely
bit more
excited
care and feeding.
about getting that into more people's hands this
So
year.
the DirecTV thing is direct sales then, right?
Yep.
Direct sales
Yep.
new for you?
No, our web pages have been an extremely rapidly growing part of our business.
So the
And
delification of iRobot. All right.
we found that people are buying more and more stuff online, and that really helps us out because online we can more easily educate folks. As you know, the biggest challenge we have is people say, does that really work?
Right.
And so we can show demos, we can show videos, we can give user feedback right on our web pages.
So are there other challenges that you're going to be addressing over the next year or two around the house? I mean, I've asked you and Colin for a window washing robot. After hearing from Hawaiian
We're
Nanosciences.
hoping someone will build one for our contest.
But after Hawaiian Nanosciences, I only have to wash my windows once a year, so maybe that's not that high on the list anymore. But is there anything specifically you'll be tackling over the next year or two in the home that is a real grungy task that you're going to free us from?
Well, we've already announced that we're going to put 2 non-floor cleaning robots on the market by the end of this year. But
you're not talking about what they are,
I'm not going to tell you
are
what they
you?
are.
Okay.
No.
So I guess we all just have to imagine what sort of grunge and grime you're going to be able to help us get over. But the point is they are grungy, grimy,
robots.
get rid of grunge and grime sort of things, right?
The robots for the home.
Okay, they're robots for the home. And that'll be this fall.
That'll be this
Yeah,
fall.
you typically release your stuff for the fall selling season. So all right, let's move on to some just home robots in general and kind of America, some of our feelings about robots. Now, unlike the Japanese, we're generally in the US, we're kind of afraid of humanoid robots. I don't know why, but we seem to be. In Japan, they've got the Honda Asimo and other things, and here in the U.S., we seem a little frightened by that. Is that going to change, or is that something that you just have to deal with those cultural differences?
I think it will come, but I can tell you when we first did focus groups for the Roomba, especially with women, we saw them. They imagined what a robot vacuum would look like, and they imagined a humanoid pushing a vacuum around, and they said, absolutely not in my home. Where would I store it? It's a little intimidating. We've got some very, very practical customers. Oh, and how much would it cost?
Right.
So, before you think of humanoids, I think you really need to think of how much would I actually take out of my wallet and pay for one. So I'm not the kind who would ever say never. In fact, I think all these things will come in time, but it's a question of building up the industry rather than it would be like someone at the beginning of the computer industry trying to design the laptop
ultimate tablet,
you have with you today. They might get noted as a visionary, but it's not really driving the industry. It's not really doing the hard work that it takes to build up technology. So I would always want to come to a conference like this and say, not I thought of this, but I did this.
Right. So speaking of driving the industry, something that happened over the past year, Microsoft got into the robotic industry with their tools. And is there that newfound interest, is that good for the industry, or does it scare the pants off you?
We encourage community. What they've done, they built a set of tools that does appeal to some younger folks. And at the same time, we have a passion for getting kids excited about engineering and science using robots because they're already excited about robots. And once you build a robot, it comes to life at the end of the day. And once you can say, hey, I built a robot, technology doesn't scare you as much, and you're more likely to go and study that. And we need more engineers and scientists in this country. So, we're enthusiastic about having more. We do believe a rising tide floats all boats, and we're going to work hard to remain the leaders in the field. We have, on the government and industrial side of the business, we have a software environment that we're getting into the hands of quite a lot of labs, and they're developing on top of it. So with that and the open interface on the consumers, we're excited about a lot of different people using the iRobot infrastructure to accelerate the field. So one of the things that has happened in the field as well is people all start from scratch and they literally reinvent the wheel, how to hook motors to wheels and how to hook sensors to those. And what we'd like to see is more people using what exists and pushing forward, because I think that's been lacking in the past.
Right, don't reinvent the Roomba, just start forward and build on top of that.
Yeah, what's next?
So Sony had a big part in sort of growing up a little bit of the robotic industry with the little doggy that they had. And
No, yeah,
so
but the dog's dead.
the dog's dead. So were you disappointed when they got out of the dog business?
I actually am. I thought the price point was too high, especially for the American market, but it was used a lot in these contests like Robo Soccer, and that was greatly inspiring. And we've had a lot of employees that participated in robot soccer when they were at university. So again, we're looking to create an industry. I think a VC once said to me, "You can't be an industry with one player.
Right, yep.
You have to have more people in." So we look at it as a good thing. A lot of Japanese companies are interested in robots, but if I was going to guess where any what we think of as what we do, practical and affordable robots come from, I think it's going to be more Korea.
Yep. Now, would you ever see doing a dog or a cat or the Huggy Bear, which is an MIT robot that's all sort of comfy and looks like a teddy bear?
As you know, we've already been there.
Yeah.
We started doing toys with Hasbro, got some on the market in the 90s, and what we learned from that about mass market manufacture, about supply chain management over in China, we brought into our consumer practice, and that's why you can get a Roomba from $150 to $330. If we used what we learned at MIT, it'd cost $10,000 to $100,000.
Okay, so we only have a couple minutes left. Last question for you, and then hopefully we'll have time for a question from the audience. Is there any robotics research going on out there that you're particularly excited about? You're looking at and say, these guys are going down a really interesting track, and I really want to take advantage of that if they figure it out.
There is, but I'm looking at it from a business perspective now, so it wouldn't be something I would talk about as much. But just some things that are all going on. Unmanned air vehicle and unmanned ground vehicle cooperation, and teams of robots that work together are really exciting fields. I go out and speak to entrepreneurs sometime, and I always tell them, plug your stuff. And so I want to plug the session this afternoon.
Okay, 4 o'clock, right?
3:30.
Oh, sorry, 3:30.
3:30.
What room?
Don't know.
Okay.
I always tell them, be prepared too.
So, like I said, we have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
But if you want to spend more time with Helen, 3:30 for an hour, you're going to have...
And brainstorming the future of robots, we're going to make it very participatory, and there's also a chance that we'll be able to pull in one of the military robots.
Cool.
But they tell me they will do it unless they're training people that are going into the field on it today.
Right.
So at the very least, we'll show some videos of some of the other really cool robots that people at the company and elsewhere have made to kind of stimulate thinking, and then discuss what could be next in the distant future for robots while the field is still in an emerging stage.
Great. Question? One right here? Yes? No? No. So last question for you then is, look out 5 years, 10 years, consumer, industrial. What's the one big thing that's going to change over the next, say, 5 years in this market?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the types of sensing technologies that the robots use, ironically, our Roomba's fully autonomous, but the military robots are being teleoperated by soldiers. I think as sensing gets better, you'll see more autonomy on those type of missions, and that moving over to industrial applications. And whether it's automobiles or commercial cleaning, helping care for the elderly. We need these robots to be able to do more stuff on their own, and that's what we're really pushing as a company. We consider ourselves an autonomous robot company.
Good. So robots that make decisions by themselves, and hopefully decisions that are correct.
That's why we need better, good sensing and
Yes,
decision
exactly.
making.
And maybe a little
But
bit.
we can talk about that this afternoon.
Right, and maybe a little mesh networking thrown in too. Helen, thank you very much. Thank you guys.